We have some major breaking news as NASCAR has granted Austin Hill a playoff waiver. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. As I just said a second ago, we got some pretty massive major breaking news this late evening, as it has been announced that Austin Hill has received a playoff waiver for the 2025 NASCAR Xfinity Series playoffs. That's what they stated in the statement today. NASCAR reports, and Zach Sternell has reported as well, NASCAR officials have granted a waiver to Austin Hill, the sanctioned body announced Tuesday, allowing the number 21 Rich Schultz Racing Chevrolet driver to remain eligible for the NASCAR Xfinity playoffs despite missing last weekend's race at Iowa Speedway. Remember, Austin Hill had been suspended for the NASCAR Xfinity Series race at Iowa due to intentionally wrecking Eric Almirola during the Xfinity Series race at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. They're battling for 4th or 5th position up front with around 10 laps to go in the event. Eric Almirola did force Austin Hill up the racetrack, and then he right-reared him down the straightaway, and NASCAR had no choice but to go ahead and suspend him. Now, this is not the first time we've seen a playoff waiver for him, but as you continue on, he will basically get that playoff waiver. However, the big thing to note here is that even though he got the playoff waiver, he will still forfeit all of his points. If you get a suspension or it's not a medical reason, you do not get to keep all your playoff points for the year. So Austin Hill, coming into that weekend of Indianapolis, had 21 playoff points based off of 3 victories and a lot of stage wins as well. Now Austin Hill is going to be starting at 0 playoff points with him making the playoffs, and will start basically in the deep hole. Now, again, this is not the first time we've seen a driver that's been suspended be able to receive a playoff waiver. Chase Elliott, after being suspended for intentionally wrecking Denny Hamlin at the Coca-Cola 600, he received the playoff waiver 2 years ago, but the difference is he got to keep his points. We also saw Bubba Wallace get it, but of course Bubba Wallace didn't have a playoff waiver because Bubba Wallace wasn't in there. But going back to the Chase Elliott situation, the difference between that situation is we didn't have the new rules we have now. For 2025, he still basically gets the opportunity to compete. Now Austin Hill is going to be starting in the hole and will have to work his way back up front to get a shot and opportunity to continue at this point to have a chance and opportunity. Now Austin Hill has had a pretty fast car so far this year, so I expect he'll have a solid chance and opportunity. And reminder, even if he does receive any playoff points throughout the remainder, he cannot have any playoff points at the start. So let's say he still finishes inside the top 10 in the regular season standings. He will not receive any of those playoff points unless he wins Daytona, for example, or wins at another track like Richmond coming up maybe even this weekend when we head to Watkins Glen. Even though I think Connor Zilch is still going to win this weekend, he will not receive that playoff waiver for that event. Well, he's received the playoff waiver, but he will not receive any future playoff points going into the future. Now, I believe once we get into the playoffs, he will be able to receive playoff points since he will be in the playoffs. But I think Austin Hill is going to have a really deep and tough road to climb because you've got Bristol Motor Speedway in that run, I'm pretty sure. You've got tracks that he's been a little bit inconsistent at times in the past, and I'm not sure how that 21 car is going to be at those types of tracks. But if he's able to get through the round of 12, he's got an opportunity at the round of 8 because he got Talladega in the round of 8 this year, and we know Austin Hill has been really good at tracks like Talladega in the past before. So I don't think it'll be a major issue for Austin Hill to advance, but again, it's going to be really, really tough for him to get that chance and opportunity to go out there and compete for a championship. I think this is very justified at this point because I know some people are going to question the call of why he's receiving a playoff waiver in the first place. Considering that he intentionally wrecked somebody to try to advance his position and has done this before. I think many in the industry also felt like with Austin Hill that he probably should have gotten a multi-race suspension, not a one-race suspension, but a multi-race suspension for what he did. Because Austin Hill, this was not the first time that Austin Hill had intentionally wrecked somebody during a caution. Remember back last year at Charlotte where Austin Hill intentionally wrecked Cole Custer under yellow? Granted, that was a left rear, not a right rear. He did get a points penalty, if I remember correctly, for that incident, but he was not suspended for that event. But now, of course, everything has changed because NASCAR was pretty consistent back a couple years ago where if you intentionally wreck somebody, you would get playoff points if you were suspended. And NASCAR would give out waivers like it was candy. But the reason that all these waivers have changed is because of what happened with Kyle Larson. Remember, Kyle Larson attempted to qualify for the Indy 500, made the Indy 500, was attempting to do the double. Rain came into play, and he went to run the Indy 500 and instead of running the Coke 600, even though he put the effort and time in to try to get done with both of the events, he still ended up missing the event, missing the Coast 600, even though he put the effort in, and Fox kind of put him in a bad position on that front. That's why NASCAR has changed the rules for the playoff waivers, because they were giving playoff waivers out to people like Ryan Newman not too long ago, Matt Kenseth, who shouldn't have gotten a playoff waiver, and other drivers that weren't even full-time in the sport, for example, that were being granted playoff waivers, even if they weren't eligible for full-time. And I think NASCAR changing these rules is the best way to counteract some of these things. And I'm glad to see that Austin Hill will not get a playoff waiver in this situation. Actions do have consequences at this point. If you do something stupid on the racetrack and you do something that's really dumb, you should basically not be able to receive a playoff waiver. That would have affected Austin Cindric in some ways, considering Austin Cindric may have not been able to use that. He'd be able to use the win for playoff eligibility at Talladega, but he would basically had to start with 0 playoff points if he got suspended for what happened at Circuit of Americas and couldn't receive any of those playoff points. And I don't think this is going to be the last time you're going to see someone have to deal with something like this. I think this absolutely is a justified call from NASCAR, and I think they are making the right decision on this front. Because once again, if a driver does something stupid, if a driver causes an incident on the racetrack, they should absolutely not be able to receive any sort of playoff points for intentionally causing a crash. Because what he did there was just absolutely bogus. And Austin Hill did that at a really dangerous part of the racetrack. Regardless of how you feel about Austin Hill and Eric Almirola, because Eric Almirola's had some controversial stuff in the past, like what happened at Phoenix earlier this year, it's just not acceptable to intentionally right-rear somebody down the straightaway. Even if Almirola's been aggressive, sure, it still doesn't give a right to anybody to intentionally right-rear somebody down the straightaway. And I think that there has to be some consequences for those actions. So I think the suspension was justified, and I think NASCAR is, again, making the right call to go ahead and suspend Austin Hill for this, not suspend him, but basically tell him you can't get any playoff points going forward. You still be able to make the playoffs, and I know RCR is probably not going to be happy about this, but guess what? Your driver did something, FAFO, and that's what happened in the situation for Austin Hill. So like I said, he will receive a playoff waiver and will have the chance and opportunity to compete for the NASCAR Xfinity Series playoffs this year, but he's going to have a tough road going forward. I think it's going to be difficult for him to win the championship because Connor Zilisch has been good, Carson Quaffel's been good, Justin Allgaier's been good, Sammy Smith's been good, his teammate Jesse Love's been really, really good. Sam Marichal, the creative, shown some really good speed this year. And even some of the guys that haven't been as strong as some of the lower equipment, they may surprise people, including Ryan Seek, who I think could be a factor if he makes the playoffs this year. So we'll see how, and Nick Sanchez as well, who's been good. So we'll see how things go for Austin Hill. But like I said, he has received the playoff waiver, but he'll have a difficult chance and opportunity of maybe going out there and competing for a championship. We'll see how he does throughout the remainder of the year, but he has received a playoff waiver. So, that is going to today's NASCAR news and motorsports news episode. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notifications on, so if I win a video, it does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. List description below that, and comment your thoughts below on today's episode. Do you think Austin Hill should have been able to receive a playoff waiver for intentionally wrecking somebody or not? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Tomorrow morning on the channel, you're going to be seeing the Cup Series race pick for the race at Watkins Glen, the Gold Bowling at the Glen. You're also going to see the Xfinity Series race picks as well for the Mission 200 at the Glen. And then, of course, on Thursday, we'll have a NASCAR news video, talk about this news, talk about some silly season rumors around Justin Haley, Daniel Suarez, and even Dodge as well, and Trackhouse and Connor Zilisch. We could be getting that breaking news here in the future. We also got other stuff coming out Friday. I'm not sure what's going to be coming out on the channel. We're going to have, for sure, the Truck Series race review, maybe some other content coming if any major news breaks. We got content coming out, people like Haley D and Shane Gisberger, Carl Ertz, Kurt Busch, Kyle Busch, Bubba Wallace, Ross Chastain, Sheldon Creed, Sam Mayer, Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Ryan Preece, Brad Keselowski, Connor Zilisch, Junior Motorsports, Cletus Zafron, Dodge, Ram, you name it, all the good stuff we talk about on the channel in the coming days and weeks. So anyways, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys next time for more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.